You've been part of a group coordinating a sort of counterpoint to the ERG within the Conservative Party and trying to push back against the possibility of no deal. How sure are you that no deal is off the table now?
Well, yesterday was all about no deal. It came under the microscope, and ask yourself, does it answer what Brexit was calling for, what came up at the referendum? I don't remember everybody saying, let's have no deal, let's run away from the EU. Would it bring our country together? We're a polarised nation here in trying to work out what our relationship with the EU should be. It doesn't answer that question. Is it good for Britain's economy? No. Bailing out to WTO terms would be dangerous. And how would it affect our security? We would lose sight of the threat picture across Europe. So for all those reasons, that's why Theresa May, the Prime Minister, came to the Parliament yesterday to say we need to look at this and pause and say we can't, the clock is ticking down, let's make sure we don't end up there by default.
So clearly you don't like the possibility of no deal. How likely is it to happen, though? Because one interpretation of yesterday is, well, no deal is now less likely because the Prime Minister says she won't do anything without, or she won't do it without the permission of Parliament. But on the other hand, as she said, if you extend until June, you then end up with a sharper cliff edge because extending again would be more difficult.
Well, firstly, the reason why she had to make that statement is because the default position, if the European Union and Britain don't agree something, we end up falling out of the EU. And as I just illustrated, that is not good for Britain. So she had to come to Parliament to say if we don't get this deal across the line by the 31st of March, then we need to have the vehicle, a mechanism to prevent that happening. And that was put in place yesterday. So in 2 weeks' time, we all come back here, we debate these matters, but for the first time, Parliament gets an opportunity to remove no deal from the table.
So that's significant, but it might be a mechanism to stop no deal from happening, but it doesn't necessarily tell us where we go next, doesn't it? I mean, no deal is not an end in itself, as many have said.
You're right, and the frustration I find is the very people that wanted the Brexit project in the first place, the very people that wanted a referendum are the ones saying, I don't support the Prime Minister. I voted Remain, yet I'm supporting the Prime Minister's deal to leave. Now, the Brady Amendment, we had an amendment that went through a couple of weeks ago, that actually showed we can get the Prime Minister's deal across the line, apart from a tricky area to do with Northern Ireland and the backstop and the longevity of the backstop. Now, we're looking at details to provide an answer to that solution. If we provide that answer, I hope the Brexiteers will support the Prime Minister, and then we finally have that deal.
Now, this is interesting. Jacob Rees-Mogg speaking on radio here in the UK saying that he could vote, this is, of course, leader of the ERG within your party, could vote for the Brexit deal with changes in an appendix. So this goes to the sort of very complex question around what kind of changes are needed to the Ireland backstop. Does it need to be a rewrite, or can it be something called a codicil? Suggesting here that he would take a codicil. This sounds as if the ERG is on board with May now.
Well, I'm pleased that they're waking up to the fact that they need to support this deal, because many of us have actually been far more vocal than ministers normally are to say no deal is unacceptable. So I'm pleased to actually hear this, to learn this news, that the ERG themselves. But I remain hugely concerned that as a parliamentary party, that it has a broad appeal to the nation, that's left, just right of centre, that we have a drag anchor almost, a caucus operating like the Tea Party in the United States, that it's able to influence the Prime Minister in the way that they've done. That, for me, is unacceptable. We must have voices from right across the spectrum, and Jacob Rees-Mogg is one of them. But they shouldn't yield the power that he's had in the past, and I'm pleased that he's now going to fall into line.